are you doing today? Uh, it's something's kind of made aware to me today. I mean, it's been made aware to me before, but it's just had a fresh look at it again. It's like you can see some people. Here, let me try to restart this, rephrase this here. All right, like I was saying about Bushido and how there was an epidemic of mass suicides and ritual suicide, and it was all over honor, and it was all over people's pride, basically, because if I mean, even though the intentions are good to strive for perfection, but there's a point where the obsession with perfection becomes a flaw. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird, and it kind of, I mean, in a way, uh, it irons, or it hardens the iron, I guess, of the nations. But then, if something becomes too hard, does it not break? You know, don't I mean, isn't even like the samurai sword? It's hard on the outside, but the inside's kind of soft, I think, or it might be the other way around. But that's the secret to its strength. I mean, it's just like you look at a weed, a rod, basically. Once you take a weed and then you strip off all the branches and let it sit out for a few weeks, it turns into like this yellow stalk rod. And while the weed's alive, man, I mean, it's like it bends and snaps back, but when it's dry, it'll break, but it's kind of similar to those swords. Those swords, though they're strong and resilient, they'll break. But the secret is the hard coating and the soft inner. So instead of breaking, it might bend. If you make it too hard, it'll just break. But if you make it too soft, it'll just bend all out of place so easy. Same thing with the little weed. It's the same thing. It's hard on the outside, but you cut it open, you look, it's like soft, squishy, spongy material going up through the middle of the stalk. So these are kind of like universal truths. It's like that's real science right there. How you can apply how it will work in one thing, in one substance, and then you look like metal is totally different from wood, but yet the same thing that works with metal similarly works in wood and in nature. You know what I mean? These things mirror each other, and it also works in people. If you're too hard-headed, if you're too mean, too angry, you preach kind of out of bitterness and anger. And this dude was talking about it, how like some preach in that way, and they start to do it for egotistical and pride-filled reasons. And there's another way. There's a way to do it perfectly, where it's without offense. I mean, even in Numbers, it talked about if you go to avenge, I think they're called avengers or revengers. That's what your job would be. That's to go out and slay someone who is a fugitive and they murdered someone. You got like a certain time frame, like from when the last of a certain priesthood, when he dies, if you live on the run as a fugitive till that guy dies, you can go back to your home tribe. But you're kicked out for so many years unless an avenger comes and takes you out. But there was a special thing about an avenger. It said that even if you killed the murderer, but you hit him with malice, it said that it's like the mark of Cain all of a sudden. It said anyone who kills Cain will bear whatever his curse is, but sevenfold. So it's kind of like the chain of the murderers. The murderer, Confucius says this. He says, if a man embark out on revenge, before he set out, dig 2 graves, one for your adversary, then one for yourself. And you kind of see this played out in the Bible, even with Jesus. He's like, he told us to go sell our garments and buy a sword, but yet he said, don't live by the sword. Don't live by force. Uh, we can't force no one to believe as we believe. If we held a gun to everyone's head, what separates us from Sharia or New World Order, UN, theosophical, one worlder, Islamic crowd? But I see how it's like in the samurai culture, these guys are walking around and they expect to be offended. They go out hoping to be offended. And at any offense, you could challenge any old person to a duel. So in a way, you could manipulate the system to where you could make someone fight you. Like you could pick out some weak, like say, like guys who beat on their wives. Like they'll be out trying to beat on, upcomers. You know what I mean? It's kind of like just like people to pump themselves up, they put other people down, and that's how you can test their character by, do they engage in those practices, or do they operate in love? You know what I'm saying? Because when you just walk in offense, you're gonna see offense everywhere you go. I've been guilty of that before because I was walking in offense. I didn't realize it. Like I'm already offended before anything even offensive even happens. I mean, it's kind of like you get defensive and you walk around with this guard up. So you cut things up before they even happen, but you end up cutting everything off out of fear of one of these offenses. You get sick of it, and then, in a sense, I've been guilty of this type of cycle, dude. And I didn't realize, man, that I also did have a spirit of bitterness. Here's the thing: it's like I ain't bitter. Because I was deceived. Because listen, since I was not bitter at any person, I forgive everyone. I try to let live and love others. At least from afar. It's like if I can't help you, but I would if I could, if there was a reason. But I'm definitely not trying to hurt you if I can avoid it. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that shit happens, accidents happen, because you don't want to make no promises out here. But look, the spirit of bitterness, it came in a different way. It was like I was bitter at ideas. I was bitter at institutions. I was bitter at schemes and plots and connivings and conspiracies and prejudices. And it wasn't people, but they're real things out in the world that people do. And instead of being angry at the people, I let the things that they do keep me kind of bitter. And it kind of, I didn't realize it. That because it ain't all the time that you feel that way. But there are times that, in my life, I did have a chip on my shoulder, and at the time I believed, I had a right cause. It's kind of like, I don't know, you get that complex, of Robin Hood, basically. It is kind of, what is that called? Rationalization and justification. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, because they're bad, whatever, man, because they're bad, bad things should happen to them, and I should be the one that is responsible. You know what I'm saying? It's like, who am I to think that way? I mean, but that's what happens when you're young, stupid, and angry, and bitter and hostile. Actually, I mean, to an extent. I'm not saying violent, but I walked around kind of with this wanton eye, which is like sizing everything up, taking everything in, and kind of like greedily, rubbing my fingers on it. In a way, it's like my mind was like a pickpocket in a sense. It would just walk around. Just it was strange thinking back on this, but I mean that's just like walking around in a fence. Your eye is wanting for some kind of it's almost like people that come out of prison. They go out to a bar, and then everyone that looks at them, they're all like grilling them, thinking that they want beef because they're in this certain mindset, and it's giving them these false signals. Like even though if they were in prison or whatever, and someone was doing the same exact thing, uh, it would be an offense. But out on in the bar on the streets, it's not. But I mean, people lose touch with, and that's and let's say this guy from prison perceives it as an offense and then acts on it, and then goes right back to prison. You know what I'm saying, for violation of parole, because he just is addicted and cannot have discipline enough to forgive, love, let it go. Not even think that way in the first place. Actually, learn to tame your eye so that it doesn't roll constantly wanton. I mean, my eye still is wanton in a way. For instance, I see a chicken short shorts, and my eyes wantonly kind of follow after that for they're attracted and drawn to that for some reason. And it's like you got to catch yourself and actually cast down every thought as they happen if you want to contest them. And just like walking in offense and in bitterness, first you got to recognize it, resolve it, forgive, and let go of some things, and just restart start with a clean slate of offenses. It's like there's plenty of things to be offended at, but if you let yourself become bitter, you'll find it everywhere where it's unnecessary, where you can just you don't cast your pearls before swine. You don't if you try to, you ain't got to go out of your way to reprove the fools, because it doesn't solve nothing. You know what I mean? It just makes you look unwise for even arguing with fools about things that just that you should it ain't worth talking about with people who don't care, or are gonna turn around and actually uh, basically hostily, violently hold it against you. And you got to understand, now that I know that looking away, I walked around in offense and wanting of some of in one way, but I explain how you can be wanting for other things, and it's similar. It's uh uh say uh well, anyway, you definitely don't want to oh yeah, I got it. See, I was mad at chip on the shoulder about the system, and come to find out, the system is all set up on legalese. That's maritime amnesty law, and all these government agencies, all this bad stuff, these conspiracies against the people, all these plot schemes, martial law plans, New World Order plans, sellouts, treacheries, traitories, treasons, uh, uh, man, I forgot what I was going to say again. Walk around in the fence. I can't remember what the heck I was going to say. Oh yeah, the corporations are known as persons. So in a way, I'm mad at these ghosts, but these ghosts, according to legalese and maritime amnesty law, are real people and persons, and us flesh and blood living beings are not. We are stock commodities. It's like, look at the stocks and bonds market. Both of those terms are things that they put people in that are captured or imprisoned.